April from April's Home, and today I'm out in my garden. I thought that I would try to do some garden vlogging this year, so I thought that I would start by taking a tour of my very overgrown garden. We have had a crazy rainy spring. There has barely been a day to get out and do any sort of gardening. As you can see here, the sun is just beautiful and we have a lovely, beautiful spring day, so I thought I would get some gardening done. So first, let's go ahead and take a look at my very overgrown garden. With the rain that we've been having here, it's a record year for rain here in the Pacific Northwest Valley here in Oregon, so the weeds have gone crazy and I have a ton of weeding to do, and finally the weather is cooperating so I can get out here and do some weeding. So these are my raised beds here, and you can see they are just completely overgrown. I like to leave a lot of the leftover plants from the year before. The birds love to pick at them and eat the seeds and things like that, so I like to leave my beds kind of messy. I know that that can be problematic for weed seeds and bugs and things like that, but I know that my birds really do enjoy it, so I prefer to leave it like that. But I do have to get all of these beds cleared out now so that I can get them planted for the spring. So you can see quite a bit of work here. You can see a couple of last little kale plants here that I've let go to seed. I think that they're absolutely beautiful. The bees just love them. I think a kale plant is just really, really stunning. It's fun if you can let one go to seed here. They're just so beautiful. This plant here is just buzzing full of bees, but it's starting to lean over, so probably I will go ahead and take this down here in the next couple of days. I do think it's so pretty though, so I may let it go for just a little bit longer so the bees and the birds can enjoy this. Here are some of my succulents growing, but they've gotten a bit overrun with weeds, so I'll have to pick out those weeds and clear up some space for my succulents to get growing again. This is one of the pots I usually plant herbs in. Here's some parsley and chives and things. Some of these chives are ready to go, but again, lots and lots of weeding to do. I do have 4 very old blueberry bushes. Most of them are ready to be replaced. They have some disease and they're just not doing very well. So I'm thinking I may dig some of those up and replant them. Here is a flower bed. These actually look like weeds, but the majority of these are very pretty bachelor buttons that will look really, really lovely as soon as they bloom. I'm going to remove this old dusty miller. It has gotten a bit overgrown. Here we have some little spring onions that are probably ready to get going here, if not a little bit past ready. Here is my herb garden. They grow so well, but they really do need pruning. They really do get out of hand. My sage plant here definitely needs to be cut back. I've got 2 different varieties of sage here and some thyme, and this is a giant rosemary bush. The hummingbirds absolutely love this, so again, I'm going to wait until this is done flowering before I trim this back, although I may go ahead and take out some of this that's kind of blocking coming out into the pathway. The bees also absolutely love this rosemary bush. It's just covered in bees right now, and again, the hummingbirds come by this really regularly, so I do love to leave this bee while it's flowering. Here are 2 more of my little blueberry bushes, and they are looking pretty sad. They were pretty sad last year as well, and I thought that they might come back, but they just didn't. So I'm going to dig those out and replace them. And then over here I have my little shady area here, just a little teeny bit of shade. Most of my garden is extremely sunny. But here I have some ferns and succulents planted. This is such a pretty fern here. I can't wait for this to get growing a bit more. I've got to, again, clear the weeds out of these. And then here's this tree here. This tree actually planted itself from a little sapling that we've kind of let grow. And we've had to keep it pruned pretty well since it's so close to the house. But I just absolutely love this beautiful, fresh spring green growth here. It's so beautiful. And then you can see in the ground here I have a lot of succulents just naturally growing all over. I do love to dig these up from time to time and replant them in different spots to kind of control their spread. This is one of my favorite varieties. It's a pretty blue-green succulent. You can kind of see around here at the base of this. We have a lot of leaf litter and things like that from our ornamental plum tree here. So I'll have to go ahead and pick up some of the leaf litter that's been left around here, blown in by the wind. Here's one of my little maple trees. I just love this. I have to clear out some of these weeds, but you can see some very pretty succulents in here as well, which I just love. This is one of my favorite little spots. And then I have some experimental grapes growing here in pots. They actually did produce grapes last year, which was really exciting. I know I need to prune these back as well, but I'm still kind of unsure as how to do that. So I'm just kind of letting them go until I can read up on that and kind of correct how they're growing. And then these 2 pots here just need to be cleared out. I like to plant flowers in those. So as you can see, I definitely have my work cut cut out for me. A lot of clearing up to do. The weeds have just gone crazy with all of this rain, and so I'm definitely going to get started. I thought that I would point out some of my favorite tools before I get started. This is a kneeling bench here that my husband got me a couple of years back for, I think, Mother's Day. It is absolutely wonderful, and it just really helps me getting up and down. I do not have the best joints in the world, so this is definitely a wonderful gardening tool. It's got a little kneeling bench down here and then these handles so I can kneel down and then, you know, push myself up. And then you can also flip this around. And then it's a little bench if you want to sit on the bench. I don't use this as much, but I definitely do when I'm potting things, and then I use it the other way when I'm getting all these weeds out. And then I've got here this little weeder. This I've had for a couple of years. It's getting a little bit aged, but I just love this for plucking out the weeds. And then I've got my really pretty, colorful Mary Mecco trowel and gardening set from last year at Target. Here's a little gardening fork and this little gardening claw here. So today I'm going to focus on my little side garden here. We'll look at other parts of the garden as well as I focus on those. But today I'm going to try to clear out some of these beds and get them ready for planting my garden vegetables. So I'll come back in a minute and show you my progress. Still an absolutely beautiful sunshiny day. We've had a lovely day. I worked a lot out in the garden. I took a break during the hot part of the day, but I got a lot done. It's just pretty to look at the garden when the sun is starting to set. I love the way that the sun hits the green colors. Just think it's so beautiful. We still have quite a bit of work to go, but we made some good progress today. We got this bed and this bed completely cleared out. We still have some of the weeding to do in the gravel there. And I've got partway through this one here. I'll probably finish that one up tonight. Here's some of the little birds sitting on the rooftop. They live in the bird houses around our house. There's a little goldfinch. They've just arrived back in the garden. They're enjoying some bird seed today. You can see a bunch of birds over there at that bird feeder. You can hear the mourning doves off in the distance and all of the sparrows and goldfinch chirping. Definitely a pleasant day in the garden. So I'll come back tomorrow and show you more of my progress. So yesterday I got a bunch more work done out in the garden. I cleared up a lot more of the beds and got them ready for some flowers. So today I stopped by Walmart and Bi-Mart to pick up some flowers for the garden. I got some marigolds and petunias. I love this really interesting color of sort of orange petunia there. And then some of the wave petunias in sort of a buttery yellow and pink. I got 2 blueberry plants here, as well as some pepper plants and lots of snapdragons, my favorite, as well as a couple of these pretty sort of peach, apricot color and purple colored violas. Now I'm going to go ahead and work on getting some of these planted, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I have spent the last few days working on my yard here, and you can see the clouds are starting to come in. The sun is going down, so it's the end of my work day. And I thought I'd show you real quick what I accomplished this week. So I've cleared out 3 of these beds here really nicely, and as you can see, some plants are already in. I've added steer manure to each of these beds and got that all dug in nicely. This bed here is going to be zucchini, and I'm going to plant that next week after the rain when it warms up just a little bit more. And I always love to plant marigolds in the corners of all of my vegetable beds just because it looks pretty, and I hear that sometimes it wards off some of the pests. So, got some cute marigolds in there. This bed here is going to be green beans, and I've got my seeds all ready for that as well, and I'll put those in a week or so also. And then this bed here is going to be my jalapenos and Anaheim peppers. I've got a few here, but my town only had really hot jalapenos, and so I'm going to go into a different town and see if I can find a better variety of that to finish filling in this bed here. But I've got a few planted and I'm really happy with that, and I've got my marigolds in there as well. I've decided to leave this kale plant here flowering for another week or so. The bees are just really enjoying it. And in this bed I've cleared out most of the weeds, and I'm still trying to kind of clear up some of this garlic here and separate some of the clumps. This is all kind of grown up wild, so I will probably have to replant this in the fall, but we'll see what happens with this garlic bed here this summer, and otherwise I'll plant that back in the fall. I've still got some flowers to plant, so but I do have some in, and I'll show you those in a second. I've got this bed cleared out, and I am probably going to plant okra in here, and this one's all cleared out. I may or may not decide to keep this parsley plant and replace it with a new one. I also usually grow cilantro and Italian parsley all in the same bed here. We don't use too much, but I do like to have it on hand. And then this bed here I've completely cleared out as well. This I've decided to do sort of a mixture of a flower bed and a succulent bed with some of the succulents that I've been growing around. I'm going to go ahead and dig up some of the succulent volunteers that have popped up around my garden and bring them over to this bed so that I can kind of help them grow a little bit more. Otherwise, I've planted some snapdragons in here and some different succulents and violas and marigolds and things like that. And next week I'll come in and do a fairy garden, and I'm going to go ahead and do a tutorial on how I turn this into a fairy garden. So I'm really excited to do that project. And then this bed here, I still have a bit of work to do. These are not actually weeds, these are bachelor buttons. So I still need to kind of go through and thin out some of the weeds and get supports by some of these bachelor buttons. And I will also be planting zinnias in this garden bed as well as some annuals also. And then I have my petunias planted in this little pot here, and then just some various flowers in this, some petunias and snapdragons and marigolds and things like that. So those two are all planted as well. So I still have a bit of work to do over in the little shade garden here. I do have to replace the blueberries, like I said, and I did buy those, so I will probably do that next week, as well as thinning out a few of these weeds that you can see here in the gravel. But otherwise, this is going to look really, really pretty here in the next week or so. And I will, of course, update you on the progress of this as I do it every week. So that is my garden vlog for the week. I hope you enjoyed hearing what I've accomplished in the garden for this week. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more videos from April's home. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye. And here's a look at Zoey, my gardening helper. Zoey, come here. My gardening gloves, bring them back. Bring them here. Come here. You bringing them to me? Thank you. This is my dog Zoey, and she has my gardening gloves. I think she's going to bring them in the house for me. Well, now where'd you put my gloves? Go get my gloves.